Good morning, everyone. Luke with Premium Aquatics here. I hope you've had a great week. Weather's been beautiful here. Today I have the tank off. As you can see, we are taking a look at the Reef Octopus VarioS pump that I've been running for my return pump. Obviously, I've had this on for a while. Haven't showed it to you guys, so I wanted to take a minute today to really showcase this and how it's been doing for me already, giving you a little bit of a review. One thing I will mention real quick, one thing to keep in mind with these sea swirls, as you can tell for my system, because it's so shallow, I lose a lot of water with that. And so my tank drains a ton. It exposes some of my rock. My power heads all are high enough to where they start getting exposed, and it means a ton of water drains down into my sump. Keep that in mind when you're designing your tank, seeing what you want to do. Keep in mind that this will take it fairly low. Now, I haven't talked to Ed from Sea Swirl yet. I'm going to see if maybe I can put a hole into the elbow. Then it will start sucking air sooner than when the outlet is, so that way it doesn't lower quite as much. Because if I can save, another inch or two, the better, because I'd rather not have it drain quite this much every time I want to turn off this pump to do maintenance or anything like that, because then it's going to freak out the skimmer, it's going to freak out the filter roller. So I'd prefer to keep it a little bit higher so not as much drains down. Let's take a look at this pump. Here we go. Okay, so this is the VarioS 6. I put the 6 on this bad boy. I went full on, went way too over the top on this pump. I did not need a 6. I did it because I thought, well, you know what? Why not get a bigger pump? That way, if I want to do more stuff with it later, I can. Which is still very, very true. This gives me a lot of options still for down the road if I want to add media reactors, chillers, sterilizers. Whatever I would want to add on here, I could put a manifold on this sucker and be 100% fine and not skip a beat for my flow up here. Right now, I have to run it on setting 2. Prior to adding the Sea Swirl, when I first started this, I actually had to run it on 1 and only 1. And if I would run it up to 2, my level would be near the top, enough to where it started worrying me that it could easily overflow if something happened. So now that I have the Sea Swirl on there and changed a little bit of the plumbing, I can go up to a 2, possibly a 3, but that would get up to too close to the top again, I think. So with my drain set up, I can do it at a 2. So I still have 3 more settings that I can technically bump it up to and still be fine. But for my plumbing and what I can drain, it's just too powerful, and it's going to dry out my sump before it can do anything. So I went a little bit big, but it still gives me options if I would want to add anything down the road. So we're going to take a little bit look at the specs here for each of them. I'll throw up the chart here so you can take a look at it. But I have this 6, has 70 watts max power if you're running it full blast. It can be used wet and dry, which means submersible or externally. We have a 16-foot head max on this, and then gallons per hour on this puppy is 1,720 at 0 feet. So I get a lot of flow out of this guy. The inlet and outlet are both 1 1/4 inches, so a little bit different than what you would normally see, but 1 1/4 should be readily available from your plumbing store or hardware store. So a lot of great options. The 8 goes up to 46 gallons per hour. The 4 is at 1056, and the 2 at 792. So a lot of great options. I probably would have went with the 4, but not bad anyways. So with the 6, I've got a lot of power behind it, and it can do a lot for me. There are some great qualities to this. This is a DC pump, which means it's controllable, obviously, as I talked about. You can control this. It does come with a controller that I'll pull out here and show you. But there are 5 speed settings on this. So what we get here with the pump, straight out of the box, we do have this nice big pre-filter cage. It doesn't have a sponge that goes around it, but it will protect from larger debris. And you could always get a filter foam to put around it if you wanted to. This back does also come off. It is clipped on, so you could take this out and really do a nice cleaning on it. And then we have, of course, just your pump here. We can take off the bottom plate, which will allow us access to take off this front cover. Most pumps, you would have to take some screws out, which would be in your little corners here. But for this, it actually just twists locks, which is actually kind of nice. You don't have to do a whole lot to get this removed. So we just twist it to unlock it, and then it'll pull off. So that'll allow us access to our rotor, which actually, if you look, there's an O-ring right here and this disc. This disc is what is holding on to your impeller. So if you pry that out, there are little tabs here that will allow you to pull the whole unit out. Mine is fairly dirty, so that's why we're taking it apart. We're going to clean it off real nice. It's got a nice thick ceramic shaft, which is great because you know, when you see with some of these smaller shafts, they break really easy. They're really fragile, so it's nice to see something really big and massive on that. So it helps protect it so it's not going to break so easily. When you do put it back in, as with any pump, be very careful. Make sure you're seating it properly and pushing it in tight so that it doesn't have any chance for rattling or anything like that. And then we'll just push it in there and get it all seated up. I'm going to clean this before we do that, and then I'll show you the controller as well. So when we open up the pump, we actually get a couple different things than what we're accustomed to. Obviously, we have our controller. It does have a waterproof port here to hook up to the pump, and then the port for the power, and then it actually has a 0 to 10 volt port there, which means you can hook this puppy up to a third-party controller if you'd like to. So something like a Neptune Apex would be great, and you can start controlling this through your Neptune Apex. So if you have that ability, it makes this really nice because not a lot of return pumps have that third-party control option. You can have your equipment all under one house to where you're monitoring, controlling it from one main hub. You know, the more power to you, because it just makes it a little bit easier to deal with everything instead of having to go to each separate piece of equipment and deal with it. So really nice option, whether it be for your skimmer or your return pump. It just allows you to have it. So that's really nice. We'll talk a little bit more about all those features, but another part which is really cool is it actually comes with a float switch and a bracket. I'm not using it because I don't really have a means to use it right now. I may change that because I'm using it as a return pump. But what you can do with this is basically you hook this up to the side here, and it allows you to turn this on. When it is triggered, it's going to tell this pump to turn off. So if you're using this as a skimmer pump and you have a skimmer pump with the VarioS, you could put this in your collection cup. If you don't have an external waste collector or anything like that, you can put it in the collection cup, and as that collection cup gets full, once it pushes this up, it's going to trigger it. It's going to tell the pump to turn off. That way you don't have excess skimmate continually piling up and going back and overflowing back into your system. So that's really cool, and it's a really neat feature to have. As a return pump, you could set it up. You could set it up to where it's in your overflow box, and if that tank were to start overflowing, it would raise up and it would tell your pump again to turn off, and that would mean that the return pump is no longer going to push any water in there, and then it's going to shut off, so you are saved from an overflow. Really neat to have that, and not something that you normally would see with a return pump or for a skimmer pump for that matter. So that's actually a really cool added benefit to take advantage of. And like I said, I haven't, but I'm thinking about trying to set it up so it's in my overflow box, so it's still out of the way, you can't see it, but would have the ability to be sitting there. And if for whatever reason my son comes and touches this, like he likes to push on the gate valve or my temperature, I'm not going to worry about him overflowing my system. So that's actually pretty cool. So definitely check that out. It obviously comes with your quick start guide, tells you all about everything that this does. So let's take now a look at this controller. Okay, so let's take a look at the controller here. Obviously we have our power button. On the bottom I already told you the power to the pump, and then our 0 to 10 volt input. And then up here we have 5 levels. We have our Eco 1, 2, 3, 4, and max of 5. Simply when you get it plugged in, you're just going to push the minus or plus to choose the level that you want. Right now I'm sitting on level 2. You can pause it, which means it's going to go into feed mode. You can either have a 15-minute feed mode or a 60-minute, which is nice for me. At this point, I can't use it because I'm draining way too much water to be able to turn this off and feed. It'll just drain everything, especially if I have corals. It's just not going to work. And then we have our float switch on and off that we can turn on and off. And then our status, which will tell you whether it's working properly or not, which is really nice, so you don't have to wonder, well, is this float switch working? It gives you a status light so you know exactly what's going on with it. So really cool features on this pump. I'm going to get it set back up, Another thing you do get with this that it's already plumbed up here is they do give you a hose barb attachment that is varying in width. So for my 1 inch, it still works. So keep that in mind as too. I believe this is probably 1.25 inches, so it's direct. You got your O-ring here. So this is actually really nice if you're doing soft tubing. They give you everything you need. If you're going to be doing hard plumbing, obviously you'll have to get your PVC and your fittings there. But let's get this set up here and get it rocking again. That's up and running. I'm actually really enjoying this pump. It's working out very well for me. I like going a little bit bigger with my return pump, simply, especially with the DC, if you're going with that. I do go a little bit larger than what you might need, simply because you can always dial it down with the controller. And again, like I mentioned, if I ever want to put something else on this, all I have to do is tee off that tubing, put a ball valve so I can choose how much is going out through that tee, and then set up my sterilizer, my reactors, my chillers, whatever I want to. And because this has so much room, really, I have an option of putting on probably quite a few things if I really want to. So keep that in mind when you're choosing what pump to go with. Obviously, I'll put a link in the description below so you can go check it out. I think I'm going to put this on here shortly. I might make my own little bracket since that thing's a little bit large for me, but I think I'll connect this up. I'll put it in my overflow box, and then maybe we'll run a test on it, see how it works, see if it actually does what it's supposed to. If it doesn't, I'm going to have a serious situation on my hands. But, you know, for king and country, no, that can't be it. So, no. So yeah, I'm going to test that out, see what happens, and it'd be really easy to make just a little bit of a bracket here for this guy. If you have any questions in the comments below, let us know. Don't forget, it's MACNA. If you're there, go see us at the Senai booth. Brandon would love to check you out. You know what to do. But really, that's going to be it for me. Make sure to hit that like button. We appreciate it. Subscribe and hit the notification, that little bell. Don't forget it. Hit it so you know when we put out a new video on this tank, as well as our other videos. Thank you so much for stopping by. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Peace.